Once upon a time, a lovely mermaid named Ariel rescued a drowning prince from a shipwreck. Ariel's father had forbade her to swim to the surface, but she had to save the prince. Ariel wanted to be part of the human world so badly. Somehow she would find a way. As she touched the prince's face, she wished with all her heart that she could stay on the beach and dance with this man of her dreams. As the prince lay unconscious, she sang to him. "What would I do to see you smiling at me?" she sang. Her father's trusted friend tried to convince Ariel that being under the sea was her home, and she would be much happier living her life there instead of the human world. The Sea King had asked his friend to keep an eye on his daughter. But despite all the king's friend's efforts, he could not convince her because she was in love with the prince. The fish, her only best friend, was the only one who understood her. Her fish friend surprised Ariel with a statue of the prince that had sunk with the shipwreck. "Oh, thank you so much, my friend," Ariel said. "The statue looks exactly like him." Just then, her father, the Sea King, found Ariel in her secret grotto with her collection of things from the world above the sea. He destroyed all of her treasures in an attempt to protect her from the dangers of the human world. Ariel was so upset.
Oh no.
She sought out the help of the Sea Witch. The Sea Witch made a deal with Ariel. In exchange for the mermaid's voice, the witch would transform Ariel's mermaid tail into legs. The Sea Witch told Ariel she would remain human only if she received a kiss of true love before the sunset on the third day. As Ariel wiggled her newly found toes, the Sea King's trusted friend knew he had to tell the king. But he knew Ariel would be so sad as a mermaid. The king's friend agreed to help Ariel find the prince. Ariel's seagull friend helped her find a dress, and it wasn't long before the prince arrived. "You are the one!" he exclaimed. "The one I have been searching for!" Ariel nodded but could not speak. "But the girl who rescued me had the most beautiful voice," said the prince. "Perhaps you are not the girl I have been searching for." Still, the prince helped her to the castle, and they had dinner that night. Ariel made the prince laugh for the first time in weeks. He showed her around his kingdom the next day and was enchanted by her enthusiasm for everything, from horses to puppet shows. The prince thoroughly enjoyed Ariel, and that night they went for a quiet, romantic boat ride. As the prince leaned in to kiss Ariel, the Sea Witch made her pet eels tip the boat. Then the Sea Witch hypnotized the prince and transformed herself, pretending to be his mysterious dream girl. She arranged a wedding right away to make sure all of Ariel's plans would fail. Ariel's seagull bird friend gathered all of her ocean friends to help Ariel defeat the Sea Witch's evil plans. Her friends fought the Sea Witch and won, and Ariel's voice was restored. And the spell on the prince was broken. He realized Ariel was his true love, but it was too late, and Ariel was a mermaid again. The evil Sea Witch dragged Ariel back into the sea. But the strong prince would not lose his true love again. and he fought and destroyed the evil sea witch. The Sea King and his trusted friend watched. And the Sea King could see how much his daughter loved the prince. So he granted her wish to marry the prince. All of Ariel's great sea friends applauded as the prince and Ariel were married, and they lived happily ever after. High above the city stood the fine statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with gold leaf, and his eyes were bright sapphires. A large red ruby was in his sword. "He is as beautiful as a weather vane," said one of the town councillors, who wished to be known for his artistic tastes. One little boy in the city was crying for the moon, and his mother asked him, "Why can't you be like the Happy Prince, who never dreams of crying for anything?" Everyone loved the Happy Prince statue in the city. "He looks like an angel," remarked the children of the school. Their math teacher asked, "How would you know? Have you ever seen an angel?" "Of course," said the children, "in our dreams." One day a lonely swallow landed on the Happy Prince for a rest. He nestled in between the statue's feet to go to sleep. But just as he was about to fall asleep, a large drop of water fell on the swallow. The swallow saw no clouds and could not understand where these drops were coming from. The swallow looked up and saw the statue's eyes were full of teardrops, and that is where the drops were coming from. "Who are you?" asked the swallow. "Well, I am the Happy Prince," said the statue. "Why are you crying?" asked the swallow. "I was a happy human prince my whole life, and when I died, they put me up here to see all the city's sadness, and so I weep. I can see a very sad seamstress who has a very sick son. She is so very poor. Swallow, swallow, will you bring her the ruby from my sword?" asked the Happy Prince statue. "Oh, but I must be leaving to meet my swallow family," said the swallow. "Oh, swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me for just one day and help me?" The swallow agreed to stay and help to be the messenger for the prince. He flew the ruby to the seamstress's house in the night and laid the precious red stone beside her thimble. He cooled her sick child with a flutter of his wings, and the boy began to feel better. The swallow flew back to the prince to tell him all was done. "I will leave tomorrow." "Please, swallow, stay one more night to help me," the Happy Prince asked the swallow. He asked the swallow to take one of his sapphire eyes to help a poor playwright to finish his play. The little swallow snuck into the playwright's room and left the sapphire. The playwright was overwhelmed and could not believe his luck. The swallow returned to tell the Happy Prince how happy the playwright was. The swallow said goodbye, but the prince asked for his help again, to give his other sapphire eye to the little match girl in the square below. "But if I pluck out your eye, you will be blind." "Do not worry, little swallow." "Go and join your family now." But the little swallow insisted on staying forever with the Happy Prince. The Happy Prince asked the swallow to take each leaf of his gold to help the poor in his city, and so the swallow did, as the Happy Prince asked, leaving the Happy Prince looking quite dull. The swallow stayed too long, and the cold winter made him very sick. He knew he was going to die. He told the prince he loved him and kissed him on the lips before falling at the statue's feet to his death. At that moment, A strange cracking noise sounded from inside the statue. The leaded heart of the statue had been broken. The city councilors took down the Happy Prince statue as it no longer was gold with precious rubies and sapphires. They found a dead bird at its feet and sent everything to be taken away to the garbage. God was looking down and sent 2 of his angels to bring the 2 most precious things from the city to him. The angels found the dead bird and the broken leaded heart and statue and brought them to God. God thanked them so much. He brought the little swallow back to life and repaired the statue and his broken heart. And he put them in his Garden of Eden for the little swallow to sing forever and live with his Happy Prince statue. There once was a poor country man whose only inheritance to his 3 sons was his farm, his donkey, and his cat. The eldest son inherited the farm. The second eldest, the donkey, and the youngest son inherited the cat. "What on earth will I do with a cat? I can barely feed myself," said the youngest son. "Let alone how can I offer this pet anything? I have no money and am so poor." "Don't worry," said the cat. "If you can get me a sack and a pair of boots, you will see I am the most valuable thing your father ever owned." The son brought the cat what he asked for, as he knew he had nothing to lose. The cat put on the boots and took the sack to catch a plump rabbit. The cat wore the boots on his journey. He would be called Puss in Boots. He caught a plump rabbit and brought it to the king. Puss in Boots told the king the plump rabbit was a gift from his master, the Duke of Carabas. For several weeks, Puss in Boots brought the king many gifts from his master. The king was very curious about Puss in Boots and his master, the Duke of Carabas. But the king knew that the Duke was friendly and had the most well-behaved cat he had ever met. The king did not know that Puss in Boots had made up the name Duke of Carabas for his poor master. One day, the king and his daughter were riding in their carriage by the river. Puss in Boots told his master to take off his pants and shirt and jump in the river. His master agreed to do so. Then Puss in Boots yelled out, "Help! Help! The Duke of Carabas is drowning!" as the king's coach passed by him. The king ordered his driver to stop, and he told his guards to rush over and save the Duke of Carabas. The king saw Puss in Boots yelling and knew he must help him, as he had been so generous to the king. Puss told the king the Duke's clothes had been stolen. So the king offered the Duke a fine suit of his own clothes to put on. The Duke of Carabas got in the carriage for a ride. The king's daughter quietly told the Duke he looked very handsome. The Duke looked at her and told her she was very beautiful. Along the way, Puss had asked all the farmers and workers on the road, "If the king drives by, you must tell him the owner of all these lands is the Duke of Carabas, or the ogre who lives in the castle will eat you." All the farmers and workers answered when asked that the Duke of Carabas was their landowner when the king asked them. Puss in Boots ran ahead to the ogre's castle and asked the ogre about the trick he could do by changing into a small mouse from a big ogre. Puss in Boots told the ogre no one believed he could do a trick like that. The ogre said, "Watch me," as he turned into a small little mouse. Puss in Boots grabbed the mouse and ate it up, and that was the end of the big bad ogre. Just then, the king's carriage arrived at the castle gate. Puss in Boots ran to meet the carriage and said, "Welcome to the castle of the Duke of Carabas." His master could not believe what was happening. On the long ride in the carriage, he had fallen in love with the king's daughter. And Puss in Boots had planned everything to work out perfectly. The Duke asked the king if he could marry his daughter. And the king said yes, of course. The Duke of Carabas and the princess were married and lived happily ever after in their castle. Puss in Boots was named a great lord and never had to hunt for mice ever again. Puss in Boots proved he was the best inheritance, as he had promised his master. A long, long time ago, in Sherwood Forest, there lived two outlaws whose names were Robin Hood and Little John. They were the smartest, fastest, and best archers in the world. The prince of the land wanted them arrested and sent all of his men after them. But Robin Hood and Little John outsmarted Prince Jonathan's men and easily escaped. With their many disguises and amazing skills, Robin Hood and Little John stole the prince's jewels, his gold, and one time they even stole the prince's royal robe. To the people of Nottingham, Robin Hood and Little John were heroes. Whenever the sheriff came around to collect high taxes, Robin Hood somehow filled back up the villagers' pockets with coins. Once the sheriff even took a rabbit's family's last penny. Robin Hood heard about it and visited the mother rabbit with a bag of gold coins as a gift, so she could look after her whole family. Mother Rabbit thanked him as Robin Hood sped off to his hideout. Meanwhile, the beautiful Maid Marian was out for a walk with her friend when she noticed Robin Hood's wanted poster. She confided in her friend how much she loved Robin Hood. Her friend assured her they would be together someday. Meanwhile, Robin Hood had caught a glimpse of Maid Marian on her walk. Robin Hood told his friend Little John how much he loved Maid Marian. "She is so lovely," said Robin Hood. "Well, why don't you ask her to marry you?" said Little John. "What would she see in me? I am a wanted outlaw," said Robin Hood. Just then, their friend Friar Tuck joined them. "Someday you will be called a great hero," said Friar Tuck, "not an outlaw." Friar Tuck then told Robin about an archery tournament being held nearby. "Maid Marian has promised a kiss to the winner," Friar Tuck remarked. Robin Hood wore his best disguise yet and won the tournament. But it was a trap set by Prince Jonathan. As Maid Marian kissed Robin Hood, Prince Jonathan arrested him and sentenced him to death. "Please, no," Maid Marian pleaded with Prince Jonathan. She confessed her love, and she begged for Robin Hood's life to be spared. "Marian, my darling, I love you too," Robin Hood declared. Little John fought off the prince's men and saved Robin Hood. The sheriff of Nottingham fought them too, but they all managed to escape to Sherwood Forest. As they fled, Robin Hood asked Maid Marian to marry him. "I thought you would never ask," she happily replied. They spent a special night in the forest filled with fireflies. Robin Hood offered her a ring made from flowers to pledge his love. Back at the palace, the prince was very angry that they could not find Robin Hood. Prince Jonathan tripled the taxes and ordered the sheriff to throw anyone who could not pay in jail. Soon the jails were full. Robin Hood and Little John came up with a plan to let all the village prisoners out of jail. The plan worked. While the prisoners were all escaping, Robin Hood snuck to the castle and took every last bag of Prince Jonathan's gold and coins. Soon after, the real King Richard returned to Nottingham. The king was very upset at what he heard that Prince Jonathan and his men had done to the villagers. The king ordered Prince Jonathan and all of his men to prison. The very next day, the joyful wedding of Robin Hood and Maid Marian took place. As all of the friends gathered to celebrate their love, everyone knew Nottingham had returned to a happy and peaceful, loving town again.